Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm Karenann McDonald, and this is my Frequency Fridays, and I'm so glad you could join with me, and I'm so glad I finally got on here. So we're having storms and storms all week, so that's part of the thing of living in the kootenays and in the mountains and being on the road, and I've got so much stuff to share. We're going to talk a little bit about loving the one you're with, and who are you with? 24/7. You, right? So let's talk about loving ourselves. This is about how can we love someone else? And I've always said something, whether it's to my children or someone else, there's to be loved and be loved. And you got to love yourself. We got to be in that heart chakra. We've got to be everywhere doing these things and having so much fun. Okay. Otherwise, we're doing it wrong, completely doing it wrong. And so this is one of the things. And like I said, thank you for joining me. Yo, it's Kirsten. And hopefully Lisa and a bunch of people. I know I'm running a little bit late, so we just had a little bit of delay here too. So we've got to be a little bit flex once we're in the mountains and we're having, girls' internet goes out. So I moved out my Starlink to see if we could help them out today. So that's just part of the storms going in and out, right? It's learning to be neighborly and learning how to help, the people that you're around. And you got to love people. You got to do your best and just imagine what, treat people the way that you want to be treated. I think that's always it, isn't it? So how's your week going? I've got to talk to you. Some really cool stuff is coming out here. I had the greatest, afternoon. And so today was like the fourth day of like a 4-week seminar. And so you know what? I've been going through the Insight Health apps, and this time when teaching, I get to sit back and absorb every once in a while. And I go to beginner classes, something different. Everyone's got a different approach to it. And there's other people in there that needed help. So a lot of times they're doing it. And because I've been in the field so long, you could have all the credentials you want. Not that I don't. But when you have credentials, doesn't mean that you've got the experience either. And because we were in the original, development of the biofeedback 25, 30 years ago, a lot of this stuff has been taken from there and adopted, or these days, everyone's got a new model of doing biofeedback, right? There's biofeedback, there's bioresonance, there's Rife, there's PMF, there's frequency, biofield tuning, all sorts of stuff, right? So you got to be able to create and go with the flow, right? So anyway, I wanted to talk about this, and this is the most important thing. So as I said, one of the funniest things I've got, rather than taking baking soda water, because there's always the thing about, do you love yourself? How much power? And how many of you guys want to be empowered? I do. How many people want to be self-empowered? I do. Do you guys? Because I think that's really, really important. And I've always said the quickest way to test for empowerment is to actually get your pH. Like get your pH on. When you're really acidic, people are depressed, they're ill, they're oppressed. They take on other people's issues, but not when you're up there, guys. When you got your flow on and you're in that nice, hot pink purple, make sure that you go in and do this. And this applies to not only to people, it applies to pets, it applies to livestock, right? Same thing. Your house can be, in a negative state. It was the best compliment when I moved. I came in, I was doing some energy and I put my biofeedback up and I had my crystals going on and I was powering up the place. And you know what the neighbor said to me? They said, I think you put the Buddha bottle. You got the Buddha bubble bigger. And I was like, I have a big Buddha bubble. And I was like, that is so cool. Right? So those are one of the things that people notice the difference. And people that are energy sensitive, they go, wow, there's something vibing here, right? As we go onto our own little ley lines, we're creating our own stargates, our own portals. Who cares what anyone else is doing? You got to be the gate. You got to be the star seed, and you got to connect to the stars wherever you are. Forget what everyone else is doing. It only matters what you're doing, right? Allie's in here. How are you? And so now what? Aces is in here, this is Kirsten, and Mystifying Mark is here. Ooh, I hope that doesn't mean you have a broken heart. Anyway, it gives me half a cat, yes. The snake's going up. Bad symbol. bad symbol to holistic nurses. And Ellie says, I love my dog more than me. Can do. You seriously have to love yourself. That's the key. When you're in that self-love everyone wants to be around you, including the animals. They pick that up. We have to do that. Someone asked me the other day, are you in service to others? Are you in service or service to yourself? I said, I'm not into servitude. I'm not a servant. That was the end of that discussion, right? How are you? Are you taking self-empowerment? Are you a people pleaser? I'm not. A brownie or, a Boy Scout, those badges, things are earned. They don't come automatically. So, and that's the thing. Even in international law, none of this, you're all innocent. No. You are basically deemed a hostile, right? Or until you prove yourself that you're friendly, right? You can be sitting on the fence, but we have to, be able to prove, and the proof is in the pudding with our actions, right? You just can't paddle with one oar. You need two oars, one for you, right? And then you'll get it around there. So what did we hear? I just did a 14-day cleanse to alkalize my body. I was over 8. Yeah, we want to keep it around 7.5 to 8. I know Dr. Young, before he went into jail, used to always tell me, well, we could go to 8.4, but sometimes that's pushing a smidge, right? So we'll just see how things are going. So Robert says, bless your heart and your soul, spirit, sun temple, essences for the critical point you made about dead light energy structures. You know what? You're welcome. Okay. I hope some people got the meaning behind what I was talking about. And if you're not on my Facebook, I have a Facebook inner page. I mean, I got pages all over the place. Let's face it, but I can't add anyone. And so you have to go to, and I'll put it in here if it's something you want or want to share, because right now I can't take anyone. I can't talk to anyone. And one of the things is that both Facebook pages now have got a new rule for me. It's called, you can only talk to 2-3 people a day. And I mean, talk to them. I can't even message anyone new. Like, that's rude. I can't even add them in. I'll be adding people probably till August and September. Still never get to them. That's just rude in my books. What we do have is my group, and anyone can go to there and I can prove anyone. So that is my group. So if you want to, make sure you go into my inner group there. So let's talk about self-love, shall we? So we talked about what's so critical these days. I showed you the picture on there, and part of that is getting your groove on. You need to have your Buddha bubble, right? You've got to have the biofield bubble. And the more alkaline you are, the more stronger to have things flow. But it's the worst thing I ever learned when I was going into, do my Reiki master, and then quantum touch and healing touch and touch for health and therapeutic touch. And then, of course, theta touch. And then I met Richard Bartlett, and that was it. Threw all the rest of them out, went, yep, matrix energetics. The man had it before he passed away, right? 15 years of critical teaching on matrix energetics. So if you haven't looked at that, you should. There's so much free teaching still on there. And that was part of the thing, is that it was so important to people, like for the people to realize that it's your beliefs can be so solid. And if they're wrong or put on the wrong foundation, that affects everything. So we need to put those lattices back together and, have some flexibility and flow. You got to be able to move it. It's kind of like having a, interstitium. How many of you guys saw my interstitium talk today? Did you see that on my groups in the last couple of days? A lot of people, it's like, what? What you talking about? Anyway, so to me, really the biofield, the stuff out here, right? The frequencies before we get conglomerated into this, dimension here, right? The solid stuff. But there's a whole bunch of funny, gooey little Buddha things out here too, right? And so there's multi-universes, right? And multi-matrixes here. And so that's one of the things to be able to flow. So to me, this is the most exciting part of the immune system. And when you think about it, it's close to 80-85% of our immune system, right? Before you walk into a room, people know that you're there. I just had an experience. I can share this because it's a perfect example. It only happened 20 minutes ago. I had to go out and get something. And a guy that I've been talking to on Facebook, turns out is a neighbor. But that's the first time I've seen him outside that little square, Facebook thing and FaceTime, right? Because I like to talk to people. If you haven't gotten a hold of me, do, because I like to talk to people. I like to see people face to face. But it's the first time I saw him in his entire glory, right? And he came up and he's like eyeing me. And I'm like, okay, who is this guy, right? But it's so different because, usually lighting and everything else, and it's darker and people are in their little, camera microphone thing or their little phones, right? So this is, when I got to see him, whatever, 6 feet. And I'm like, whoa, now I know who you are. But he came up like, oh, I got a hug. And I'm like, well, no, because I've been moving. And I have. I was in the appliances. I've been a jerk. I don't want to like get grubbed up. And I think that's part of it. When you say, you know what, I'm just filthy right now. Like, let's just not, and that's part of that too, is being able to say no, and that's okay. Right. And being accepted for that. We don't have to be. And I think one of the first things my girlfriend ever taught me, it was funny. And we were having some disagreements, and they told me that they were pacifying other people. And my girlfriend, Kim, sat next to me. I love Kim. Kim goes, I used to be just like you. She goes, but then I learned not to be a people pleaser. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes you just hear it the right way from the right people, and it resonates. And every time, people do that, because, sometimes people tend to say things before they stick it out, and that's okay. But this is the huge thing, is when, people are more concerned about other people think. That was the idea of putting masks on. I mean, I'm a nurse, and I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. Why would you put on a mask? We all knew in nursing class, like 40 years ago, 42 years ago, we knew that mask was even, not only toxic with everything it has now, but back then it was toxic, and it was useless in less than 5 minutes because of the, getting damp and everything. Everything penetrated. It's like trying to put a mosquito through a fence. Like, please, it's too stupid. So that's one of the things in there. Someone's got a Buddha belly. Does that count? No, it doesn't count. No. Unless you rub it. No, good luck. I don't know. Anyway, I just had my post swiped out by artificial intelligence. That happens. It does. Not too often to me, but they just have me on here. And let's see if this worked. Ted's light simulation buildings. Okay. And the radio frequency codes of your average home is not compatible with our primal sound and light field. Home is not compatible with our primal sound and light field still point of a true vacuum. Integral quantum physics right there. Robert said it right there. That's integral. I have nothing to add to that, other than I could be in a vacuum some days. But anyway, Ali says, thank you, Karen. I'm going to have to catch the replay. See you in a bit. And Ali said, hit the like, guys, for sure. That's why, it's really huge in here. So what we want to do is go back to this idea. When we're in love with ourselves, right? We want to treat ourselves the best. Coming back, and it's not even time traveling. It's not even just like, what is going on with, the inner child, or, embracing the shadow self and all that. I don't go into a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the things is the energy that we carry within us, and what's inside is out, what's outside is in. And a lot of us are carrying a lot of toxins, a lot of stuff. And I always liked it as a colon hydrotherapist, because I said I was decolonizing everyone. And it's true, right? As you get shit out, and I can speak that way, I'm a colon hydrotherapist. As we got your shit out, that was emotional. It was basically all emotional issues, because it's energy stuck in the system. It can't move out. And that's part of the, extra weight, the extra Buddha belly that we don't need, if you want to put it that way. But one of the things in there is that going in, and everyone could go find some of the best water, like spring water. That's not difficult. All of us can get essential oils. That's not difficult. Everyone, they're getting so suppressed, oppressed, and depressed. And one of the things I find, every couple hours, I just put this on, and you can get little guys too. I have real small ones here, and I carry them around, and I give them to all my friends. This is actually an example of what I give to my friends and clients here. I jack them up. I put the crystals on. I put some of my favorite things in there with a little, pink grapefruit, little pink lotus, a lot of sweet oranges, right? Just a beautiful, beautiful frequency. Or, I give them to all my friends, right? So they can carry it, in their wallet or in their pockets or something. These are not big. You can get them on Amazon. They come in 2 mils, 3, even a 1 mil. That's enough to just keep really filling. But, it makes us, really in a great spot. I was like, this is so cool. Like, what a great day. Like, to go somewhere, meet someone face to face. I went, well, that was a positive. And then actually I got this drink. I said, I wanted something non-alcoholic, right? First time I met people. And I said, she goes, how are you? I said, excited. She goes, I love that. And they didn't charge me. I'm like, she goes, yeah, I'm good. How many times do you go somewhere and someone says, how are you doing? Good. Fine. Fine. Good. Good is actually a derogatory term. I don't know if you know that. Good, God, whatever. A lot of that is it's like dog. Hi, I'm dogged. I'm dog, right? It's like I'm a female, say I'm a dog, right? So put some fun into it. I say I'm excited all the time. It's a state of excitement, right? And they go, that's amazing. No one ever tells me that. And people go, that's really nice, right? Because they're used to the same thing. Yeah, you're good. Next customer. Yeah, they're good. I'm excited. Really? They automatically go like that. You tell them you're excited. They want to know what you're excited about, how you're excited, what was exciting. I've even laughed and said, I got to meet you for the first time today. And they smile. You change something that's, blah, 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 right? And then you get into a state of excitement because I love myself. And I shouldn't have to say it as an affirmation. I could, but I do. And I could do it on the biofeedback. Every time I put something on, it's a sacred act. It's an act of loving myself, right? So even if you only have to get 2-3 oils, get the best ones. They're kind of fun. One of the things in here too, who really knows? 432 is the heart. Oh, please. When people are trying to sell these things like, hi, we're going to get you 528 because it's like, it's the expression. It's like, it's the DNA miracle. Well, there's a lot of stuff between 400 and 600, right? There's 532, 530.1, 528, 528.001. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of things on the dial. So I always laugh when people, what are you getting into? What are you getting into? So we should sit here, right? So we could just like do a little bit of this. This is amazing. We're seeing all these things happening. We're getting excited. We're getting stimulated. All those things are positive things, right? To expand, the matrix, expand and to be flowing, right? And see how things go. Because this is where you're going to make the difference. And this is law of attraction. The more we wait, this thing about got to raise your vibration. You got to raise your frequency. Well, what does it mean? Like, what the hell does that mean to most people? Nothing. It's right up there with I'm good. I'm fine. Right? We got to get down into something more, concentric with that. So some of the things, like I said, I could put in 500 frequencies and 500 tuning forks, and let's all listen to that because I can play all the happy tones in the background and make everyone else feel better. And they don't know what's going on, but you can feel better because we'll just make this like slightly, in the background. Why not? It's going to make everyone feel a little bit better, just hearing a little bit of that. We'll just put it in the background so you can hear all that. Because that's one of the things that, like I said, people can then get some actual therapeutic, medicinal value out of this, right? So one of the things in there. So what was a critical moment for you guys this week? Did anyone have an aha moment where you go, wow, I really love myself, or it's a good hair day? Today's not a good hair day because it's raining outside, right? I don't care. And just being able to get in touch with yourself, being able to ground, being able to do something that you think is really, really, really important. Okay. That's where we're going. So, when we are, on and we're live, this is where you're going to make the difference. Now, one of the things that's been coming up, I've got this like urge. I don't know what it is. There's Yetis, there's Bigfoots, there's Sasquatches and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know. It's becoming a theme up here. All of a sudden, I started talking about it. I've got friends coming up. They're going to this Sasquatch reunion thing somewhere in Washington, right? Want to come visit me before or after or whatever. And then my friend Dan, Dan Earth Nelson, right? So Dan Nelson has got his download. He's just started up his Substack. And I thought, you got to be able to hear this because Dan is amazing. So, once we're going frequencies that we have with these Sasquatches, right? So I might be able to show. I thought this was really pivotal today. And, part of it too, like even something I thought was really nice, like someone actually took the time to thank me today. And I'm like, it's nice when I get little emails, but this one was actually on my Facebook. And a lot of times I might miss it as if I'm going through there. But one of the things in here is that being able to look at this, right? And I thought, this is so cute. I just have to share it because it's like, it's a love letter, but it was to me. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. So, once we get in here, and I thought, wow, this is great. I got to meet Scott today. I got to meet Christina today. I got to meet some really cool stuff. Here's the post I'm talking about. There I am on my Karen Macdonald data share Intel Truth group that keeps growing. Anyway, which is cool. And here's Jenny. Jenny Journey said, thank you for posting about the interstitium. And I thought, you know what? It's another matrix of love in ourselves. It's like all those different things. Everyone's talking about the biofield, right? The first one, the skin, and what's the largest organ? It's not the skin, right? How many of you have got Lyme? If you have ever had Lyme essential oil, best antidepressant in the world. Not one individual in my entirety of doing essential oils and aromatherapy has anyone not liked Lyme. They may not like lavender. I don't like lavender either. But there's a lot of oils and florals people just don't like, or too combiney or too whatever. Citruses, you can never go wrong with. And all of a sudden, like I've been putting like pink grapefruit everywhere lately. But Lyme is one of the best antidepressants. I mean, you just got to love it. Those are great things as well. That's why we put them in food. We do lemons, limes, and grapefruits for cleanses. You can't go wrong in there, right? And that's one of the things too. I love it in my new little digs here. It's just great, right? As I move around and I'm visiting, so I'm in these new digs here and it's great. And I'm like in the forest, being a noble little savage, right? And I'm sitting there going, I just love it. I got trees 300 and like, if you would say 60 degrees, I got 300 and like 55, just enough to get the car through. You got to be able to do that, And one of the things here, you've just mentioned in the chat room, I have never not loved myself. I'm fortunate to have always been raised with a fierce self-love and it's the only way to be. And, a lot of people just not used to that, right? But, I sat there and I went, well, when the neighbors are telling me they can feel the energy, right? And it's coming over into their yard. I thought, that's very cool. That's very cool. That's what we want to be doing. We want to be expanding our energy, our heart energy and stuff like that. So, I kind of laughed. I went, oh yeah, who really knows if we're at, 432 or something like that. That's actually getting too funny, right? So in there, as we start, going through different tones, again, let's look at, something in the plant department. There's stuff like hawthorn berries, right? Great things like herbs and stuff, but I just like the oils, so we're going to concentrate there. How many of you have heard of ylang ylang? Ylang ylangy. It's the weirdest thing. Sounds like the ET race called the Lang, but whatever. So ylang ylang is this gorgeous flower. Oh my gosh. If you've not seen ylang ylang, it's right up there. So let's look at the and in the ylang ylang, we're going to look at that. And here's our ylang ylang. Here's the plant. Isn't it pretty? Oh, geez, it looks like a Job's bell almost, right? And there we start seeing all these essential oils, right? And don't worry, you can get one in here. There we've got gas spectrum in there. So it doesn't have to be expensive. Just make sure you're getting one in here. But let's just take a look at it. It's got a very specific frequency. And for a plant, it's even in the custard out, like that, right? It can be made here. But it's added a lot to like soaps and stuff like that. Also for in here, but it grows in the tropics. Anything that's in the tropics is great, right? Indian Ocean, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia. And what are the things in here that we're seeing, right? Is that we are looking at stuff for what? Depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, stomach stuff, asthma, gout. Yes. Why do people love it? Because it's an aphrodisiac. Okay. And the only thing you should be worried about as an aphrodisiac is loving yourself too. Love the one you're with. Now, sometimes it's got a very strange smell, and sometimes citruses, some oranges or something like that. My one. Okay, do you know what the top smells are that men, when they wanted to fall in love, do you know what those smells are? What do you want to guess they are? Start thinking of stuff like apple pie, cinnamons. Okay, cinnamons and vanilla. Okay, and that's what I want to go into as well. And someone's mentioning jasmine's used for anything. Jasmine is great because it's used for shock, actually. Absolutely.